Secrets of the goddess Tallegu, goddess Durga, and the king of Kathmandu. Bronwen Bledsoe. The text presented here is an inscription from Nepal, a praise poem named Sarvaparadha Stotra, which King Pratap Malla had hammered into the golden doors of the temple of the tantric goddess Tallegu, goddess Durga, Kaumari. In the middle of the 17th century, a public and a literary text, as Sarvaparadha Stotra, offers a concise, if a difficult, instance of Tantra's deployment in one historically specific social world. In late medieval Nepal, the temple of the goddess Tallegu commanded the skyline of the city kingdom of Kathmandu, while her principal servants, rulers of the dynasty named Malla, commanded the world of the Nevar people. No structure in the realm could be built higher than the goddess' imposing temple in the royal palace at the heart of the mandala patterned city kingdom. The tantric goddess Tallegu was literally and conceptually the most exalted being of the realm. No one could miss the fact of the goddess's existence or her power, yet access to her sanctuary was jealously restricted. Full initiation into the method of her worship amounted to consecration in the kingdom itself. In the late Malla period, 1600 after birth Christ, and just who might this goddess named Tallegu be? There is still no definitive answer to the question, at least no one openly spoken. Their name may be derived from the Nevari tale, meaning higher or upper, and the honorific suffix Jew, thus the deity of the higher temple. Or it may be a transformation of Tulaja, patron deity of the great Maratha king Shivaji, who lived 17th century. In this poem, the king addresses her as Kali, a free Shiva goddess with both exoteric and esoteric forms openly. He also calls her Kalika, little Kali. Both the later name and certain details of the poem suggest the authority of the Kalika Purana of Assam. Elsewhere, King Pratap addresses the goddess as Chandika, Ambika, Uma Parvati, Durga and Bhavani. No doubt we are to understand that she is any and all of the Shiva goddesses' many forms. Informal scholarly speculation opines that her true esoteric identity is Siddha Lakshmi, high deity of the northern transmission of Kaula Tantra. But Tallegu is not called by the name in public. Just who she is for practical purpose emerges from her supremacy in the kingdom and her mastery over the king. Pratap Malla was perhaps the most flamboyant king ever to rule in Nepal in 17th century. Local chronicles and oral tradition remember him as a great tantrika, a pupil of several famous gurus and protagonist of tantric duels and deeds of daring. Pratap was a great self-publicist, particularly fond of elaborate Sanskrit inscription, where he invariably signed himself Kavindra, or poet king. Pratap's favorite topic of conversation was the divine company he kept, and his favorite conversation partner was the goddess he addresses in this poem. King had powers, responsibilities, problems and potentialities that set them apart from other mortals. With our modern presupposition of a clear division between the domains of religion and politics. It might be thought that the proper concern of king would be exercise of power in statecraft, in the sense of administration and warfare. The historical record is, however, scanty on such mundane matters. What text of all types do choose to speak of is continuing quest of mortals to integrate the living world with the worlds of the divine. Nowhere was the quest of the more consequence for society as whole than in the case of kings, for their extant words and works all indicate of an overriding concern with what might be called cosmopolitical order. By this term I mean a social and a political order whose constituency was not confined to mortals but was actively extended at every turn to include divine as well as the human beings in a single conceptual and a practical frame. Constructing an exclusive cosmopolitical order around a tantric deity involving one major problem. Tantric knowledge and practice are by definition secret, whereas political life must be public. How could Tantra be deployed for public purpose without compromising its essential secrecy? In general, the Mallas negotiated this problem by recourse to what Robert Levy has called advertised secrets. This useful oxymoron breaks down as advertising, calling attention to the existence and importance of private deities, plus secrecy, maintaining resolute silence on particularities of content. Tallegu's conspicuous, yes, yet inaccessible temple is a prime example of the advertised secret rendered in architectural terms. Royalty were not the only agents of the period to make use of advertised secret. Nivar Buddhist and some Brahmans lineage had also taken one or another variety of tantric knowledge as the highest and most efficacious form of trust. The deities too were announced and concealed in special architectural structures, the initiations to authorized roles of privilege in society. Kings has the responsibility to maintain continuities between socio-political order on earth and encompassing universe of divine powers. That is, they were concerned with the lives of the gods and with the lives of mortals, defined as the servants of the gods. In Kathmandu Valley, temples by the 100 and 1000 were the principal site for the articulation of cosmopolitical order, for service to deities, new and all generated complex networks of obligation and privilege among mortals of all classes. Inscription on these temples constituted a public and permanent discourse on relation of cosmic and immortal power. It is probably true that only a small proportion of the king's subject could read the letters placed on display in inscription, and even few would have been able to penetrate the stylized Sanskrit verse. But we should not doubt that most people would have a substantial understanding of what was being said. The king was the foremost servant of the goddess, thus he was foremost among mortals. Therefore he should be served by all other mortals. This was the logic in force. The poet king Pratap did not put the matter so bluntly. Inscriptions were traditionally a medium for display of Sanskrit literary virtuosity, and more than any Nepali king, Pratap turned the subtleties and sophistication of Sanskrit poetic convention to the articulation of power. His problem with respect to the tantric goddess was to speak of her without compromising the esoterical heart of the relationship. His solution, I suggest, was to preserve the intimacy of the king-goddess the art by overlaying its esoteric heart with a reformulation centered on exoteric devotion. Within the frame of exoteric devotion, Pratap constructed his own kingly persona by juxtaposing the special forms of knowledge of which he was master with a posture of extravagant humility. Among these special forms of knowledge was his understanding of the goddess' role in the realm as a whole. She commanded not only him but his city kingdom, and ultimately the universe. As an open and public production, the inscription is amenable to an exoterical surface reading, but the poem's very construction, through display and concealment, contrast and camouflage, invites penetration beyond its facade. The overt message of Pratap's Sarvaparadha Stotra, given for the forgiveness of all faults, is resolutely exoteric. It is quite possible to read past its esoteric component with barely a pause. In mood, the poem is confessional rather than perfection-seeking. Goddess and Prakshana relate as mother and child, without hint of erotic charge. Its literary category is stotra, praise, eulogy or hymn. Its genre is a conventional division of Indic religious modes, is that of Bhakti, devotion or participation. What the poet craves is an intimacy with the goddess that is profound but is no way sacred. The poem's overall thrust and overriding tone are encoded in an insistent refrain: O Mother, let my faults be forgiven. Kalika, treasure of victory, be gracious. The poem's explicit argument centers on the king's abject failure to accomplish what he should have accomplished, namely service to the deity, service in the form of worship and knowledge, or at least exquisite eulogy. The obstacles to her service, his lapse and his inadequacies are inventoried and examined on one after another. The impossibility of achieving her grace through individual effort is argued in the first half of the poem, which presents obstacles and inadequacies by category. It opens with the four strong verses on the impediments entailed in the various stages of life: infancy, childhood, youth, and old age. Each constrains mind and body in some way to prevent her worship. Then the king speaks of the failures of past margas and performative practice, vidhis. Orthodoxy includes revealed and remembered Brahmanical wisdom, esoteric knowledge and practice, simple acts of devotion performed by bodily and mental faculties. According to the poem, the king had succeeded in none of these. On impotent result of the inventory of failures, he is to focus attention on Pratap Malla. It's a figure of the poet king, not of the goddess, that is carefully constructed throughout the Stotra. The critical point in the poem's construction of the king is the status of the faults or failings, aparadha, around which it revolves. The word aparadha could be taken more strongly: offense or outrage is not going too far. In large measure, the force of the poem derives from the tension between the king's self-depreciation and the mass of internal and external evidence to the contrary. Few of the poet's statements concerning his failing can be taken at face value. Some are indeed rooted in human inevitabilities, as with the age-determined constraints of mind and body. Most demand reactive interpretation. One clear example is the king's apology verse 16, that is, a goddess worship had not been performed at her temple at a festival time through his wrong-headed negligence. That is extremely unlikely, for the festival of the 9 nights Navaratri was and remains a great state occasion, hardly subject to lapse. Elsewhere, Pratap exhorts his body's limbs and sense, ears, tongue, nose, thoughts, spirit to partake of her, and then laments that he did not do so. Again, one must wonder if it were possible for him not to have performed these acts. What Pratap must mean is that he has in fact done all of these things, and yet something eludes him. Other portions of the poem, such as the difficult quasi-esoteric verses 6 and 10, are hard to understand at all without supplying the sense of oblique dissatisfaction. Phalanx of false has sought to prove discriminating excellence in a way that boasting could not. The text itself offers evidence contradicting the poet's self-depreciation. The king calls himself feeble-minded, yet he gives voice to king's sensibilities and in poised and polished Sanskrit verse. Speaking to the goddess, he calls himself a child, yet his signature epithets outside the poem proper address motto in a proud and magisterial tone. Thus ends the Sarvaparadha Stotra, composed by him who excels in all fields of expertise, including war, book learning, and music, the ruler of great rulers, the Lord of Nepal, the great Scholar, the Lord of the circle of all kings, the supreme king of kings, the most worshipful poet king, Jaya Pratapa Malla. With regard to the goddess, the king is all humility. With regard to man, he is all majesty. As he serves, so should he be served. The king's expertise as a master of knowledge and a master of man comes into active play in the later portion of the poem, when the stock refrain gives way to specific inflection and the deity's merits are moved to the fore. Particularly significant is the Pratap's account of the way the goddess pervades the polity and integrates the world of mortals. Specific margas are still said to be inadequate. The competing doctrine of Vaishnavas, Shaivas and Buddhists, among others, omits the mark set forth as paramount. That is, they fail to truly serve her. Yet, argues the poem, she is integral to each approach. The Brahmanical Gayatri mantra is the goddess personified. The Vaishnavi goddess Lakshmi and the Buddhist Vajravarahi are none other than she. She is even the abstract principle niyati, necessity, of the non-taste Mimamsa school, of a classical philosophy, darshana. Pratap knows she is one who all margas serve. We should not that the followers of these other margas may themselves have known nothing of the sort. She is the one who pervades the city kingdom and renders it auspicious, a Shankari Nagari. The same phrase implies that she belongs to both the cosmic order of Shiva and its citizenry on earth. Pratap's core knowledge of unity in diversity is ultimately political, for it managed both to affirm and subordinate the contending views of ultimate trust that flourished in his realm. And what of the poem's overt message concerning methods of approach to the divinity? None of these manifolds had succeeded in bringing the king to the state he desires, which is total intimacy with the goddess. The poem of devotion appears to be his last hope. Can we therefore take it that the Bhakti style of submission was truly Pratap's preferred mode of relation to the goddess? More broadly, is this really evidence that in late medieval Nepal, Tantra was thought to be a less efficacious approach than emotional Bhakti? Precisely what the Sarvaparadha Stotra has to say on authentic topics is unfortunately not altogether clear. Published transcription of the poem present variously problematic readings, and direct access to the lettering on the golden doors is not readily obtained. The three verses 6 and 7 and 8 that pertain directly to Tantra may have been somewhat obscure in their own time, for the poet's intent seems to have been simultaneously to display and to camouflage initiate special knowledge. In modern times, the problem of construing technical terminology in an exoteric framework is yet more difficult. From the number of points at which the poem touches upon esoteric topics, it is clear, however, that among the paths of approach to divinity alternative to that of Bhakti, Yoga or self-surrender, it is in Tantra that success might have been expected. The poem's final verses offer an important closing reflection on the goddess's grace, because Tantrikas of all 6 Kaula schools of transmission, Sampradaya, achieve success, Siddhi, at her pleasure. So does Pratap hope that she will be pleased with his poem of praise and thus forgive every conceivable sin. The juxtaposition of esoterical and devotional approach makes the important suggestion that poetry is a sadhana, perfection-oriented practice of the king as devotee, that is. Poetry is a sadhana in Tantra Yoga, sadhana of goddess Kali. The discussion in this paper has followed a discursive convention in treating Bhakti as an approach to divinity, distinct from other Indic forms of religious practice. The Bhakti mode is usually glossed as devotionalism, emotional in nature with the humility and self-surrender as a key stance. As such, Bhakti is distinguished from Tantra's esotericism on the one hand and the ritualism on professional liturgies on the other. More technically, the term Bhakti, a derivative of the verbal root bhaj, share or participate, refers to the project of mortal participation in the very being of the deity concerned. In this sense, Bhakti may be an important component of both Tantra and professional liturgy. The Sarvaparadha Stotra is however concentrated on emotion and devotion. Two other important contrasts between Bhakti and Tantra are pertinent to the question of what texts such as Sarvaparadha Stotra meant in late medieval Nepal. The first is the Bhakti's amenability of authentication in self-consciously literary endeavors. Tantric texts typically have a different thrust and texture entirely. Similarly, the sorts of intimacy that Tantra and Bhakti respectively seek to establish between worshipper and deity pertain to entirely different domains. Devotional Bhakti is appropriate to exterior and a public context. Esoteric Tantra is predicated on privacy and concealment. My suggestion is that in the Sarvaparadha Stotra and throughout his inscriptional career, Pratap Malla used Bhakti as a public face of Tantra. The fact of his relationship with the Tantric goddess was no secret. In important sense, it was the pivot of late Malla kingship. But articulating that relationship in the visible medium and in the public realm required Tantra's paraphrase or overlay, and the Bhakti brand of intimacy was eminently suitable for purpose of display. Bhakti added an exoteric and aesthetic dimension to the relationship without compromising its secret core. The introduction of the Sarvaparadha Stotra has tried to relate Pratap's inscription to the lived social world of the particular time and place. All the evidence indicates that problem which most engaged agents of the period was that of constructing the world of mortals for maximum interface with the worlds of divinity. The problem for the late Malla kings was to deploy power ultimately referable to Tantra for real-world political purpose. Pratap's poems makes it clear that the knowledge that bound devoted to deity constituted the conceptual center of the cosmo-political order realized in his realm. Far from being a free-floating text, the inscription citation as a physical object in the real, lived world is also highly significant. Emblazoned on the golden doors of Tallegu's high temple in the heart of the city, the inscription, like the temple itself, advertised the secret as the pivotal point of the city kingdom's life. If what is at stake here were only Pratap's Malla's poems, or only the history of late medieval Nepal, consideration of inscriptional texts would be tangential to the greater study of Tantra. But the larger point is that Tantra in practice, real historical practice, must always negotiate some interface with the public gaze, for even in maintaining secrecy, its practitioners shape the social world. Sarvaparadha Stotra by Pratapa Malla. Homage to the thrice illustrious Kalika Devi Ma. The sort of anguish felt by the child whose body is tortured by the gallant of flaming digestive fires, producing waves of peace and shit, reborn from his mother's cavernous womb as a result of past evil's excess. Can someone like me, or one still more simple-minded, describe it? O Mother, let my faults be forgiven. Shri Kalika Devi, treasure of victory, be gracious. In childhood's painful state, incapable of knowledge, in a body wet with its own filths, one cries constantly because it is impossible to say what hurts, and because one is greedy to drink milk. In this state, which is totally dependent on others, there is not even recollection of the mother who makes suffering cease. O Mother, let my faults be forgiven. Kalika, treasure of victory, be gracious. Wealth and youth feed egoism, and that mindset respects no one. I adored sexual games with women, and became so enchanted with this full adoration that not for a moment did I adore you, the primal one, the most deserving of those who deserve to be honored. O Mother, let my faults be forgiven. Shri Kalika Devi, treasure of victory, be gracious. In the decrepitude of old age, which consists of disease starting with the coughing, wheezing, and being bent over, when walking and breathing are like punishment, and the heart finds pleasure only in eating, one's thoughts are empty of her who is made of pure thought. When I'm sinking into death's snare, befooled by my own filth, and worries grow ever greater. O Mother, let my faults be forgiven. Kalika, Shri Devi, treasure of victory, be gracious. I was unawakened in yoga, I was unattentive to the commands of the Veda, and indifferent to the orthodox smarta path. I lacked the power to apply myself to Sankhya Yoga, metaphysics and the like. I had no ears to hear talk of governance and conduct. My thoughts lack focus even when turning to praise and reflection on you, who are speech embodiment. O Mother, let my faults be forgiven. Shikalika Devi, treasure of victory, be gracious. Located like the Supreme Shiva at the Brahma lotus, atop the head, you were never worshipped through mental acts, neither were you worshipped by means of external rituals, such as those performed in the Yantra Raja by me. Even so, my thoughts were pure. So every act was faithfully performed, fire oblation and the rest, still none really reached you. O Mother, let my faults be forgiven. Shikalika Devi, treasure of victory, be gracious. In my material body composed of the 5 gross elements and of Brahma and other deities, I did not honor you, who are external in the form of mantra, and the inner sound, who are the queen of breeze, who are made of pure thought. I did not honor you by means of the unparalleled sacrifice of evils cut like animals with the sword of knowledge, because the blaze of desire and anger is brighter than the sun and moon. O Mother, let my faults be forgiven. Shikalika Devi, treasure of victory, be gracious. She is that which moves in the elements-free subtle body, in the mind, and in the essence of the self as a known through insight. She is transcendent, an extraordinary thing composed of bliss, whose own self consists of ultimate trust, and yet she is hiding from me. I had not even for a moment meditated full consciousness of her subliminal presence. O Mother, let my faults be forgiven. Shikalika Devi, treasure of victory, be gracious. Thata Brahma in the form of a lotus, Hari Vishnu in the shape of a lion, Shambhu Shiva as a ghost. These ghosts, who are portions of yourself, serve as your illustrious vehicles at particular times. But I am just a mortal who does not know single and multi forms at this time of sacrifice. O Mother, let my faults be forgiven. Kalika, treasure of victory, be gracious. You merely fixed your gaze on the best of yoginis, and the great Lord, Scorcher of Madana, bearer of the trident, holder of the bow, became the Lord of the simple, for his heart was stolen away. So how shall I of the dull and wandering thoughts offer elegant verses of praise to you? O Mother, let my faults be forgiven. Shikalika Devi, treasure of victory, be gracious. Yes, listen ceaselessly to the stream of goodly description of her. Tongue, sing out, I say, thoughts, meditate on her feet. Your pair of eyes, behold her body. Spirit, merge yourself here. Nose, smell the flowers offered to the daughter of the best of mountains. But I did not do this. O Mother, let my faults be forgiven. Kalika, treasure of victory, be gracious. Feet, go forth to circumambulate daily. Hands, do puja. Head, bow yourself in reverence. Heart, do continuous japa. Spirit, go to the state of absorption here. But I, who am deeply corrupt, did not perform your worship by sharing in Bhavani's house. O Mother, let my faults be forgiven. Kalika, treasure of victory, be gracious. Let her be served by those who have realized that wisdom, wealth, land, or forms of grandeur, immortality, and the like are but trifles made of fear, mixed with a little happiness, and thus doomed to be consumed by the time. With body, speech, and mind, let her be served by those who have realized that she and Shankara are one, for she is made of endless bliss. She is the woman of the beautiful city. She is the blessed Shankari of our city. Neither in faith, nor in the opinions of the Kapalikas and they like, ni in collected Vedic teachings, ni in the doctrine of the Vaishnavas, Sugatas, the Shaivas, the Sauras, ni of those who put Ganesha first, Ganapatas, ni in the path of devotion to the Guru, ni in the service prescribed by the Kaulikas, who teach the rules for your observance with a perpetual, occasional and other rites. In none of this is you worship accomplished. Mistress of afflicted, protect me who takes refuge at your feet. You are the Gayatri of the Vaidikas, daughter of the ocean, Lakshmi of the Vaishnavas, Maheshwari of the Maheshwaras. According to the categories of doctrine on earth, Vajravarahi of the Sugata, Yoginis, Buddhist, and further necessity of the Mimamsakas. Mother, let my faults be forgiven. Treasure of victory, the one who follows of all margas serve. Kali, even at a power seat, pleasing as this, even when festival time came around, the puja of you to feet was not openly rendered, due to my wrong-headed negligence. Thus you have been slighted, but don't be angry with foolish me, who has come to take refuge in you. Lady Mother, giver of auspiciousness, when a bad son is born, let not the mother turn bad too. Mother, the votes Kaulikas partake of you with the sixth transmission of teachings, and the success of these 6 types of practice rest at the fingertips easily through your grace. But how might I sing your praise? Even this poem is not true praise. Mother of speech, be content with what has been uttered by the illustrious King Pratapa. That which I have done or caused to be done in morning, noon, evening or night, through thought, speech or deed, with feet, hands or eyes, through smelling, hearing or touch, by myself through another person or at the word of the Guru, by virtue of fate or by force. Every single fault of mine overlook it or see of compassion, O Devi Kali Ma. Thus ends the Sarvaparadha Stotra composed by Pratapa, who excels in all fields of expertise, including war, book learning and music, the ruler of great rulers, the Lord of Nepal, the great scholar, the Lord of the circle of all kings, the supreme king of kings, the most worshipful poet king, Jaya Pratapa Malla. Om Shakti Hrim, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namo Narayana. Hari Om Tat Sat.